It's called the Destin Fire Control District meeting of the Board of Fire Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting tonight. We're at 848 Airport Road here in Destin, April 9th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is open to the public, and at this time I'd like to open the floor for public comments.
Why somebody look at me?
It's just because you're only around eating.
Look around you.
Okay, seeing no public comments, the floor is now closed for public comments. We'd like to welcome Steve and Tim from Carr, Briggs, and Ingram for the presentation of the September 30th, 2018 audit.
All right, thank you all very
Welcome.
much for having us. And again, if you've had any experience with governmental financials, you'll know they're very confusing because you actually have three different sets of financial statements in here. We have our government-wide, we have our fund level, and then we have our pension trust fund. But I'm just going to kind of go over what I think is important, some highlights, and then open it up to see if you have any questions. But the first two pages are our independent auditor's report. If anything major were to happen in a negative way, it would be right here. But what we've given you here is an unqualified opinion, a clean opinion that says everything that we looked at, looked good. We did not have any major issues with anything.
Good.
And then the financial statements, the beginning part is called management's discussion and analysis. It begins on page 3. We go over some highlights. I'm going to ask you to turn to page 4. This is our, you'll see the condensed statement of net position there. I like to call it our balance sheet in layman's terms. And again, this is just a good comparison from year to year. It shows you, what changed from 17 to 18 in high-level groups. And you'll see that on the right-hand column, in the change column, your current and other assets decreased by around $500,000, roughly. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the decrease is due to your decrease in investments because you paid off a lot on your pension liability, right?
Yes.
And then on your liability section, it also decreased $435,000. Okay, and again, there were two pieces to that. So it decreased a lot because you paid off over $1 million on your pension fund, but because we have the new OPEB rules, other post-employment benefits, that went up by around $700,000 compared to last year. So that kind of gives you a quick snapshot of your balance sheet. On page 5, this is our statement of activities, or our profit and loss statement. And again, if you just go over to that right-hand change column, the biggest thing in your program revenues were you had some beach safety contributions, went up by $216,000. In your general revenues, our ad valorem taxes went up around $255,000. And then we had, in our program expenses, some of our public safety went up a little bit, but not a whole lot. So, year over year, you had, from a profit standpoint, a better year this year than you did last year. But in the 18 column, if we look at the very bottom, our net position ending, that's $440,000. Now I like to think of that as your net worth, right? So that's what's left over after your assets and liabilities. So we're running, a little thin right now, but that was a direct result of some decisions y'all made to try to pay down some of these liabilities. Okay, if you turn to page 6. The only main thing I'll just go over real quick is it's right underneath governmental fund. The governmental fund balance decreased by about $500,000 this year. And again, the governmental fund is a little different than what we just looked at. The other one was government-wide. Government-wide is like full accrual accounting. Your fund level is more cash basis. So that's how we kind of look at that. On page 7, again, this gives you a good snapshot of your capital assets, but then also the more important thing I think right now is our long-term liabilities. So you can see underneath long-term liabilities where our net pension liability decreased by about $1.1 million over last year. Again, due to the excess payment, and then OPEB liability, because of the new accounting rules, you know, trying to account for all of that, that went up. Alrighty. Now, the financial statements as a whole begin on page 9. Again, I don't want to, we already kind of went over some of the changes from year to year, so I don't want to go too much in detail on this, but your first 2 pages are the government-wide statements, the full accrual. Page 10 is a real goofy governmental GASB 34 schedule that shows your revenues, but it's broken out in a not very user-friendly passage. But your fund level on page 11. And again, you know, I like to go to fund balances and look at that, and you know, fund balances, you got $5.5 million in it. But if you look at those fund balances, your unassigned fund balance is $641,000. So again, that is the sort of the net worth residual that we have left over for the fire district. Now we do have other categories: assigned, committed, restricted, non-spendable. There's a great description if you ever want to write it down on page 20 on what each of those mean. But unassigned, we can obviously spend on anything. Assigned is an intent to spend, and committed, restricted, and non-spendable are very restricted. So let's go to page 13. And again, this is just your general fund profit and loss statement. Page 13, page 14. And again, you can see on page 14, we had a excess expenditures over revenues of about $500,000 in the current year. And we'll get to look at that in a little more detail when I go over the budget to actual. Now your pension fund financial statements begin on page 16. In the pension trust fund, your balance sheet on page 16 just shows your assets and liabilities. It does not show your true pension liability. It just shows minor liabilities associated with running that pension fund. So you got around $21 million in that pension fund, okay? And on page 17 is sort of your profit and loss statement for that pension fund. And at the very top, you're going to see contributions from the district and state of about $2.4 million, okay? You were required to contribute $1.2 million, but you put another almost $1.2 million. So that's how we get up there. Starting on page 18, we have our notes to the financial statements. If you ever have a hard time falling asleep at night, I recommend starting with page 18. Note 2, we just go through a lot of general stuff about your accounting policies, nothing that is significant that I think the board would be particularly interested in. So I'm going to have you go to, it's going to be on page 32. It's note 6. And as part of the requirements for us to disclose your pension liability, about halfway, it's right after the first paragraph, it's called sensitivity of the net pension liability, okay? Right now, your current discount rate, what you expect to earn is 7.4%, right? So if we use that number, that's how we get to our $7.2 million unfunded liability for our pension fund. But the reason I like this schedule is because look what happens if you only earn 6.4. Your liability jumps to 10.9 million. Conversely, if you earn a percent more than you're planning on, you only owe 4.1. So, you know, I just like to show this schedule because it shows you what can happen when the market changes. I think I'll do a good job of trying to stay on top of it and trying to make good assumptions. What we have seen is some special districts will say, well, I don't want my liability to be 7.2, so I'm gonna tell the actuary that I want it to be 8.4, right? And then they get the line to themselves. So you always wanna try to use the most accurate number that you can to help you plan in the future. I wrote down here, if you wanted to look at your historical earnings, if you look at page 46, just flip there real quick. So this is your weighted average rate of return. So we can see what's happened every year, going back to 2013, okay? And with y'all using 7.4 right now, I feel like y'all are relatively safe. You're not getting too out of line. But you know, hopefully we'll have some more good years, and then we'll help out with that pension liability. Let's go to page 41. Okay, so page 41 is our budget actual. Again, it's on the fund level basis. So you're gonna see the middle column is our final budgeted amount. Then you're gonna see our actual column, then you're gonna see our either favorable or unfavorable variance. And in total revenues, you were almost spot on. You were within 13 grand of your budget. And that is them doing a real good job of budgeting. Because the better you can plan, you know, it just leads to less surprises later on down the road. So again, if you turn over to page 42, you'll see the end result is your current expenditures, you spent $340,000 less than you budgeted. And that's really good. You know, sometimes we have surprises and things happen and they're out of our control. But I think this fire district has done a good job of trying to track and stay on budget and everything else. Now right below the total current expenditures, you have your capital outlay. Y'all spend $1 million less than you budgeted for in capital outlay. And again, you know, I think that's where some of the ability to pay down this liability came from. Using maybe some of those. There wasn't?
No, actually, the capital outlay has in there our hope to build the third fire station and has funds available.
On the
Correct.
Okay.
So those funds are still there to use in the upcoming years.
Okay, all right, great.
That's our hope.
Great. So overall, your budget actual, you came out to the good about 1.4 million. So, all right, page 43. And again, this is just if you want to see what our net pension liability changes year over year. The top part is your actual pension liability. So you can see in 2013 your liability was 21 million, and it's grown to 28 million, right? So if you look at the next batch below that, you'll see planned fiduciary net position ending. Well, this is essentially our cash balance, right? So in 2018, you're gonna see we had that about 21 million. So we owe, if we had to pay today, we paid 28 million. We had 21 million, there's our 7.2 liability. But you can see at the very bottom, you've been paying that down. There was a little spike in 16, but you've been paying that down every year. That liability's been decreasing. And that's ultimately what, you know, we like to see if you can do it within the confines of your budget, is you keep knocking that liability down, you know, over a period of time. You just don't want it to get so unmanageable. And page 44. And again, page 44, the very top numbers show what your actuary said you had to contribute. And then again, you can see over the last 3 years, you've contributed more. There's negatives there, negative 1.2 million in 18, 243,000 in 2017. That means you paid more in than what your actuary called for. All right, so that is it for the financial statements. At the very back, starting on page 48, we are required to give you 3 more reports. And this is a report on internal control over financial reporting. If we were to get into a situation where we made a lot of adjustments, we had a lot of problems, there were a lot of errors, we would say you have an internal control deficiency, you would have to list it here. But they've done a very good job, the books are clean, so this is what I call a clean report. There's nothing on here that you need to know about. On page 50 is the management letter. This is required by the Florida Auditor General, and they create the format. So they want us to go in and by statute, find out if there are any things that we need to report to the board. And just like the previous report, this is all standard language. There's nothing that out of the ordinary that happened this year that we need to report to you all. And the last one is on page 52. We are now required to look at your investments and your investment policy. Are you investing in things within your investment policy? And if you weren't, we would say, hey, you're not, you need to, but y'all are doing everything in accordance with statute and Florida law. So with that, I'll wrap up my take on the financial statements and see if maybe you had any questions on anything. Or...
So this is our Mueller report, is what
They
this is.
Not quite.
They didn't find anything wrong. But that, we're thankful to Catherine and the staff for that, because they do a very good job of.
Well, I'd say Chad, who's our manager on the job, has a primary contact with her, and he likes working on his job because everything's clean.
Tight.
So we don't, so we go to other places and maybe it's a wreck, or some organizations don't spend the money to get good quality people to handle their books, and then we end up doing a lot of bookkeeping versus audit. This organization really will come in and just do our audit. So.
Well, we thank you for your time. It was a good report, and I appreciate you spending the time with us tonight.
If anything comes up in here that you got questions on, you let Catherine know or call me,
Okay.
and I'll answer any questions you got. And...
It was a pleasure seeing you guys.
All right.
We appreciate you.
Y'all got any questions?
Yeah, one question.
Yeah.
Do you not offhand know what the national, how much pension plans are underfunded in the United States?
100%.
110 pension plans are underfunded?
No,
100% of them.
Not, probably 99%.
Yeah, I was gonna say that 1% is gonna be.
Because I heard, I got a number like $5 trillion underfunded.
Absolutely.
I believe every bit of it.
And just real quick, the reason you have 3 sets of financial statements is because the Governmental Accounting Standards Board can't get it correct on what we should show you. But years ago, that $7.2 million liability, that was nowhere to be found. So every government went by, didn't know what their true liability was. It was never disclosed in the financial statements. So the issue of standards that made us, made y'all get an actuary and someone to validate that liability. And then that's when all the articles started coming out about everybody being underfunded, and very few are fully funded. And I think that just historically what happened was people were making decisions without the right information a long time ago, and we were just dealing with the
Trying to
catch-up.
play catch-up. now.
Or they were hoping for it to catch up.
Yeah.
And hope.
Right.
Yeah, I looked at it when I was reviewing this before Stephen was showing me. One of the things I saw on it that I think the board might want to ponder is one, I think you've done a good job, obviously, the last couple of years, because you had a way bigger delta on that unfunded liability, and you sort of got control of it. But, you know, if you looked at that 1 year, 15, where you went negative, like, you have one bad year like that, wow, it could really hurt you. And so the fact that you made a priority to pay that $1 million down, if you pay another $1 million down or another 500, it puts less pressure on interest rates or investment rates, you know, what y'all are investing, had that stress test adversely affect you. So we do, one of the other fire districts we do, they actually have a surplus. They don't have an unfunded liability. So they're one of the 1% out of 99 who are unfunded. So, and the other thing is, if you remember the 440 unassigned fund balance net worth, undesignated, that's really the net worth, your liquidity, that's not really spoken for. And if I look at y'all's financial statements, your nut is about $550 or $600,000 a month, okay? And I think most nonprofit organizations are wise to have 2 months of liquidity. And so I think the number would be better if you could work towards having $1 million in liquidity to pay your obligations as they come due, because we have, you know, hurricanes, we have all sorts of things that we can't anticipate. So I think y'all are doing a really good job considering property values decreased and it put pressure on you. But I think this last year really helped you out. Y'all did a really good job this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had one.
A couple of points. One, I was just gonna thank staff. I mean, this is a phenomenal job, and you heard up front as Steve talked about how good we are tracking revenue. That's the easy part. We're equally good and even better at controlling the expenses. That's the hard part. I mean, we have one revenue source fundamentally. We're told what it's gonna be. It isn't the hardest thing in the world to do, is to collect that. But the expense side is totally different. So kudos for that. The other thing that is really striking is, if you look at the progress we've made, I mean, we've done something like, we've lost the numbers now, but our total pension liability's gone up by some $7 million, and our unfunded has gone down by about $2 million, so that's about a $9 million swing. You know, for me, the number that jumps out is the investment return in 2015, which, as you stated, is really tough to swallow. You keep saying you, and us, we don't do the investing.
Right.
We're on the short end of that stick, right? You know, we live with whatever the investment people do, but they've had a good 3 years. So we're sitting here running at 8.6, and they're doing their actuarials at 7.5, 7.4, 7.4.
That's aggressive.
You know, we're gonna be there really fast. We just kind of hold the course of where we are. In another 2 or 3 years like this, we're gonna be in really good shape,
Yeah,
incredible
that's right.
shape, compared to state of Illinois or all the other places that have real serious problems. And I think that's really great that we've been managing to hang on to the asset base, pay our people, not all they want to be paid, but a fair wage, okay, and be able to be, you know, good custodians of this for the taxpayers. So congratulations, I think it's a great job.
Very good job, thank you.
Thank you again for coming. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. Be good with us.
See you, good seeing you, Jim.
Thank you. Well, be careful.
All right, I entertain a motion to approve Carr, Riggs and Ingram's 2018 audit report.
So moved. Second.
You got a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion?
No,
All in favor?
I was stunned. I looked down at
Unanimous.
Mike's glasses for the first time.
You saw what?
I'm sorry?
I saw Mike's glasses for the first time.
You make fun of my life.
That was unanimous. All right, moving to regular meeting, March 12th, 2019 minutes.
Oh, by the way, that's ma'am. Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes from the regular
Second.
meeting, March 12th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, got a motion to approve the minutes on March 12th, 2019 and second. Any discussion, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, take vote, all in favor? Unanimous. All right, review of the financial reports, March 31st, 2019. Catherine?
This will be a very fast review of the financials for the 6 months into the fiscal year. Look really well at this point. Cash position, you'll see the majority has been invested. We have a large accounts receivable. We have sent the first billing out to the TDC, the TDD, of $255,000. So if that comes in timely, we won't need to make a draw on our investments for probably a month and a half. As far as the liabilities and equity, I think the only thing that I need to mention is the final adjustment from the audit report, which is for the equity. It's simply down at the very bottom of page 5 under unassigned. I'm going to be shifting some funds from provided for retirement trust fund. It's currently at 8.3 million, and that needs to come down to the 7.2, and that's just simply moved up to the unassigned fund. Because of all of the adjustments between the audit report and how the audit report is provided in 3 different fund levels, our unassigned here on the sheet that you see is not going to equal the 637 million that's available and unassigned on the audit report. But again, that's just a presentation difference because I don't adjust to the fund-wide statements. We keep our financial that's presented here in the fund balance. It's more of a comparison to the budget. So just wanted to give an explanation of that. As far as revenues go, I've already mentioned the billing to the TDC. Impact fees collected are very high this year. They're showing $204,000 for the fiscal year so far. That's due to one very large residential structure which has gone up and 3 commercial structures that have gone up. And as far as expenditures, we've had a normal month. No large expenditures, no capital expenditures, so we're really looking good for the fiscal year at this point.
It's a question that really ties what we just heard from the auditors to current financials I'm looking at. The only comment or recommendation I heard from them is something we ought to do is focus on liquidity. The comment was made, we only have $500,000 in liquidity, and so we have a hurricane or something like that, we don't have a lot of flexibility. Truth be told, how much cash do we have?
Yes, we have 7.8 million, and our unassigned fund, our resolution to create not unassigned fund, the assigned fund for the asset fund. The resolution creating that maintained a floor which we cannot go below, so that fund has to maintain, and its purpose is to allow us to save 2 or 3 months of expenditures in case something like that comes. So we actually have those savings, they're there, and they're protected by being there instead of being in unassigned.
Let me ask my question a different way. Out of say roughly 7.2 million, how much of that money is protected or set aside by state statute or something that we cannot change?
Very little, yes.
That was
The
my-
impact
that's a
funds,
good question.
very
That's my
little.
point, yeah.
The impact
So,
funds
yeah.
being the largest at just over $1 million.
So I think we're the ones that set that restriction on the asset fund, and then if we have a hurricane and need the cash, we've got plenty of cash.
That was the
Okay,
discussion.
But we've been very
We did that.
purposeful
We
in
did
saying,
that several
here's our
years back.
Yeah, several years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
We've been very purposeful in saying, this is our intent, here's how we want to run the
Right.
department. We have, in my view, plenty of liquidity.
Right.
We just no longer have a big pot of money that we think is a whole lot of available money because we know what we need it for.
Right.
But if we have a hurricane or 2 or 3, we're going to be able to find.
We're fine.
Yeah.
Right.
And with the new auditor, with Bruce Nunley retiring at the end of last year, I think that, a resolution, they don't go through all of our resolutions that were created in the past, they just go through what's been changed during this current fiscal year, so that's just something
I was
that they're
gonna
not
say
aware of.
something
I
to
would.
Tim, but I said, nah.
I didn't, no,
Yeah.
I just, it's fine.
Yeah, we're good.
It's not all bad for people to think we don't have any money.
Not bad at all, huh? Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve financial report, March 31st, 2019.
Second.
I got a motion to approve and a second to approve the financial report, March 31st, 2019. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Keep up with this, Mike. Keep up with this.
Yes, sir.
All right, old business, West End District Station.
Yes, sir. Our position hasn't really changed in reference to the station. We haven't gotten any word back yet from the Department of Treasury or from that side. It's kind of out of our hands and the city's hands. Has been presented and moved forward. We're still waiting for that word to come back. And just as soon as I do, I'll make sure the board's aware of it, just as soon as I'm aware.
Did you talk to Lance by any chance from our discussion?
Yes, sir, I have.
What was that?
And what was the,
It has been pushed out of theirs. I would hope that maybe we can do some preliminary work on some of the other items that will need to be ready when that approval comes. So we'll be working on, I would anticipate, after my discussion with him, us, DC, as well as Scott, their attorney, working together to try to build the basis for an agreement so that it's ready at the time. So we're sitting on G waiting on the O, so to say, that we have everything lined up so that when they go, oh, here it is, we can go, okay. As was said during the Obama administration when they were trying to give out money for projects, they wanted shovel-ready projects. I want this project to be as shovel-ready as possible at the time when the O hits. So we'll work on some other things. He and I had a discussion to try to get as much together as we can so that we are prepared when that word does come to move forward and not have any further delays.
Correct.
So we're going to do everything we can to try to get everything together so that we're ready to go just soon.
You good? I'm good. With that said, I think, talking with the engineer, the civil engineer, you know, he's on board. And I've spoke with the chief about it a few times.
Right.
I don't know how the process has to go as far as the bidding, but, you know, he's done 90% of the site. He knows what, he's already done the site.
Mhm.
So I don't know how we can, that's gonna be a chief question of how we can sorta start laying out a little footprint. Like he said, get to G before O. I'm all in favor of trying to get an actual footprint moving forward. That's up to this board.
is there a way that we can kind of piggyback off what they've already requested, maybe? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, the property drawing is, already exists. He's already done that for
Yeah.
how the property is gonna be done. And
He knows where the utilities are, he knows
Right.
where all that's at.
I think that he could do some preliminary, as Commissioner Buckingham and I discussed, he can do some preliminary work as far as drawings for the building itself and some other items. If the board would like for us to move forward with that, we can sit down with him and start working on it, at least get an idea of cost, because depending on what that cost is going to be, then is what the process we have to go through to be able to award it for Scott, to be able, Jenkins to be able to work on it. Depending if it goes over that 10,000, then we have to bid it out and work through that. But I think if, and I'll talk, I can have some discussions, Commissioner Buckingham has discussions with Scott and see what we can, work that we can do, that he can produce that can kind of keep us under that until we get ready to really move
If that's
forward.
okay
And
with
at
you
that point,
guys.
we'll go out and do the rest of it.
I'm all in favor of getting everything lined out.
Agreed. Yes,
Ready,
sir.
like you said,
Absolutely.
the O to be approved. And
So you mind if the chief and I get with him then and get rolling on it?
I don't have any problem. I mean, I just don't want to wait and get the go and we have to wait 2 more months.
Yeah.
And that
I
was the
mean, I want
discussion
us
that I had.
in
yes.
that place early as possible next year. I mean, I don't want to wait till 2 more seasons go by.
That was
You know
actually
what
part of the discussion is, I expressed our concern as a district that the longer that it's delayed in this part of the process, the more risk there is to our concern for our citizens and visitors that are out on the water, which is the purpose one of the primary purposes of the station is to be able to put the apparatus, the boat, and the personnel together to have that quicker response, cut 10 minutes off of our response time. We're putting, the further that station is delayed, the more we're putting off that risk for our public. I'd like to take care of it as soon as possible, and we were having those type of discussions. Right now, I anticipate we're going to miss this season, obviously. My concern is that, well, we kind of thought we might miss next season. What I don't want to get into is missing 5 seasons, because there's going to be a lot that's going to have to go into this, and the more that we can cut out now takes it off that back end and gets it down to something that's more realistic of knowing maybe we miss 2 seasons, but we don't miss 3. I don't want to get into 3 and then continue to put, because we've seen the numbers, and I've talked to the city about it before, how our on-water responses have significantly increased over the last couple of years. And that's our concern, is that we need to get down there so we can cut down that response. But
And
so anyway,
just kind of give you a rough update of where we're at. I just whispered the chief on the way in the door. I spent quite a bit of time on the phone yesterday with Representative Mel Ponder yesterday. And he tried to get some kind of an answer today, but was not able to. Hopefully he'll have some kind of an answer tomorrow. What he's gonna do for us is find out where the package is. You know, we were up here on the top, and then all of a sudden, suppose we got put on the bottom. He's gonna find out where we're at and see if he can't, give us a little better update of when the city's gonna expect us back as a go-forward shovel-ready project for them. Once that has been said in writing, then that's when our legal can get with their legal and write this contract and get this ball rolling. So we are moving forward.
Well, what I'm trying to get my arms around is they've already kind of given an approval.
That's why he doesn't.
So why don't we
feel-
just go ahead and carve that out and start moving forward on that carve out?
Well,
Because they're waiting on the rest of it to be approved, not this portion.
The only reason we haven't pushed 100%, Rick, is, obviously we wanted to make sure that the city got their approval. Once they got their approval that with it's carved out, that, okay, yep, we're going forward, go ahead and,
I just don't understand why ours would hold theirs up.
Well, that's why I just asked the board if it would be all right if the chief and I could go ahead and get rid of, get with Scott to start moving on the foundation, the footprint of it. And if we're okay with that, then that gets us to start to move forward.
I mean, if we're already carved out,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have any problem getting an agreement with the city attorney and saying, hey, get it
Well,
approved by
they won't,
council.
that's the problem. They won't enter into an agreement with us until the big picture is already taken care of. Because keep in mind, the original grant was for the whole project, and then the state approved it. Well, then we came back and we carved out that little 10% or less on the bottom, so they gotta reapprove it. They gotta just, okay, yeah, it's good, we'll, so until they say, okay, it's not solid. So the city is not gonna enter into anything with us, and I don't believe our legal would wanna try to do that either without knowing it's solid. That's why I'm asking the board if they're okay with the chief and I, let us go and start working on the footprint of this. We'll get a big jump start on it.
Well, you got my
Right, chief?
consensus.
no, that's great. And the other is, we can have the agreement, it just won't be
Yeah.
signed or approved. So
Right.
that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that DC
Can't work on
and
it.
Scott can't get together and let's get this thing worked out and be ready to go, so that all we have to do is submit it before the boards for the approval.
Correct.
Do the prep work now instead of the prep work after. So my thought would be that I'm gonna get with DC, we're gonna work it out, have him get with Scott, get the agreement basically agreed to in principle, just not approved by the board yet.
Who's
So
Scott?
that way it's ready to go. I thought that's what Lance has said, is their general attorney, their.
No, that would be the land use attorney, and that would be Kim, right?
No, I said the land
Yeah.
use attorney, and he says Scott, so.
Yeah.
Let's be
Yeah, you
proactive.
know
I just want us to be
yeah.
proactive, not reactive. Let's
Yeah,
go
we
ahead
can
and
get
get
something
as much
drafted
done
up
as we
until
possibly
for
can.
nights later.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
and that's,
That'd be
so
great.
I'll
anyway,
get with you. With
Yep,
both of y'all
yep.
afterwards.
I just know it's gonna take 18 months, 2 years to get this project done, and the seasons, I just don't wanna keep pushing it. For sure. So that's my thought.
We'll move forward.
Okay,
Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
good deal. All right, chief reports. Joe, good safety.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had a busy start to the season as far as the attendance is concerned. We could take a look at that when we do the statistics. But I know you'd asked about the tower update. They told me on Friday it would be 3 weeks before they could put it on the truck. One of them is actually finished, and the other they're still working on. So plenty of lead time there for Memorial Day.
Beginnings.
Yep, and just looking at the statistics, attendance it's been high, well, I wouldn't say high, about average, 90,000 folks. We're still obviously have the big Easter holiday, it's a little bit late this year coming up. And we started with a lot of rescues, and then it kind of cooled its heels. We've had some really nice beach days and some nice sea state, so we haven't had too much activity as far as rescues are concerned. But if you have any questions on those numbers, and something else that I didn't get a chance to put in my report is 8 of our 10 visa applicants for the first time in a long, long time have gone to the consulate and got their stamp of approval and are good to go. So that's, to have that done before it was.
This early?
The early is, it's been a long, long time. So our folks at immigration are doing some good things, let's just put it that way. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you.
Where do we go in the harbor, Memorial Day?
We do, yes, sir. Yeah, well, that's one with the accordion we have.
Is that when the boat goes as well?
Yes, sir, same time.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Training report?
Yes, sir, the board has it in front of them. You'll see that the guys have got 32 hours in this month. You'll see a variety of topics from company surveys to protocol review. We did have our operations level rope rescue class. That was a 40-hour class. However, each shift that it occurred on was a 10-hour. They did 4 10-hour days. So they were given credit for 10 hours on the day that they worked. However, I think there were nine guys that attended the class, so those 9 ended up having 40 hours. But for the report itself, we gave it for what that shift was due. And they ended up getting 32 hours, which is a really good one.
Any questions? Inspection report.
Sorry, Mark.
Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, you got a report in front of you there. The project behind Winn-Dixie has got tractors on it now, so they are starting the clearing of it, and that was our big impact fee that came in to get that going, so. Other than that, if you have any questions,
You know how long that project will take?
I don't know. A while.
Yeah.
There's a lot of units.
I'm not looking forward to the travel.
What's that?
How many units?
McDonald, the ones that's doing it,
I think it's 280.
280.
Newton, Old Acre and McDonald, are they the ones that's doing it?
I'm not sure, I'm just dealing with the contractor.
Oh, okay. Cause they used to own all the buildings there, Winn-Dixie and everything, and they sold all those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious, cause they were always pretty tight with their money anyway.
That's how they own things.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Response change report.
Yes, sir, we're still working with the county to try to pull up older data so we can do our reports. They will be, and they are, converting over to a smart cop CAD system. They had a presentation today that I had Battalion Chief Anderson sit in because I had another meeting at the time. To sit in and find out our ability to pull data from that system. We were assured, and Battalion Chief Anderson feels confident that we're going to be able, once they make this transfer over to this smart cop system, because of the consolidated dispatch having LE, EMS, and fire all in it, and they're transferring over to this system anyway, at the end of the day, we should be able to pull any type, all the data that we want to be able to pull out of this newer system when it comes in. With this transfer taking place, it's becoming quite the chore to access that older data, and the county and our contacts within the dispatching community, dispatch chief, and her interaction with that TriTech has been very trying for her to try to help us get that data. So we continue to work on that, but the biggest thing is that we're going to, if nothing else, starting this month, be able to start moving forward with new data and be able to pull what we're looking for with this new CAD system.
We're gonna have to
So,
purchase
we
any
would-
equipment or anything?
Sir?
We're gonna have to purchase any equipment to?
No.
Okay.
Well, no, there is equipment that can be purchased that might marry better than what we have, but as long as we have an Android or an iPad tablet, we should be able to utilize it as an MDT, mobile data terminal, be able to pull in that information and all that. It's just gonna be a program, and as long as we have access to satellites and the internet, I think we don't need no additional purchases. Not for on our side.
Okay.
But in reference to something very similar, the radio committee is moving forward, continuing to gather information. Probably won't be long before they'll be entertaining different vendors to come in and make presentations to the radio committee, which the sheriff was tasked with putting together to move forward purchasing a new radio system, hopefully to solve some of our radio problems that we're having now. So that's relative in that respect, but that's starting to move a little bit. I mean, I think it's gonna be a couple of years down the road before a complete system's built, because those things will happen overnight. But it seems like that's moving forward, so that's a good thing.
Any questions? All right, overtime report, chief.
Yes, sir, you'll see there was a couple of shifts that we ended up this month, but overall not bad for the month. Looks like 3 almost 24-hour shifts, but other than that, nothing else. So fairly clean month, really.
Good job keeping that down.
Yes, sir. And then one additional item, if it's okay, under the chief's reports, just to kind of inform the board. After our last meeting, I was selected and appointed to be on the board of directors for the Florida Association of Special Districts. So, you know, looks like it's gonna be a lot of, some meetings and a lot of work, but they asked me if I was interested, and I told them absolutely, I'd love to be a part of it, and we'll see how it goes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, chief.
Yeah. Good for you.
Was there any other new business? No new business? Okay. All right, seeing none, our next regular meeting will be scheduled for May 14th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. Anything else from the commissioners? No? All right, this meeting is adjourned.